All right, how's everybody doing? I'm hoping that everybody had a good weekend and that you made some time to do your reading, to make your list for today's class, for the in-class activity that we're going to do. And so in order to do that, you need to be kind of familiar with the list that she shared with you all of her languages so that you can be prepared today to switch with your classmates, like I said, for the activity, which I'll talk a little bit more later about. So just to give you guys a kind of a refresher of what we talked about last week, definitely had some good conversations, some good discussions about language and dialect and discourse and different things that we do in terms of our writing and the ways that we speak, right? So I definitely wanted to share with you all Vershawn Young's points about code meshing and code switching, because those are some important concepts to kind of consider when we think about the ways that we might balance language or change language or use language differently when talking with family or friends or in professional settings or at school. So he offers a very good definition of these two concepts that I want to share with you guys and talk to you a little bit about, just to refresh your mind so you can kind of know, so you can sort through your thoughts today about this. So Young says in this interview, right, he describes it, this is his definition, that code switching means, in educational context, using one language or dialect in one context, using standard English at school or work, and using African American English, for instance, with family or friends. That's switching according to context. Young continues on to tell us that he prefers code meshing. In his words, he says that's bringing those two together. Bringing standard English at home with friends and family, but using African American English as well, and using African American English and standard English in school and professional context. So right, with that one, there's more of a molding of the two, almost intertwining of the two languages that allows you to have them both exist at the same time. So we watched that, like I said, had some good discussions about it. Everybody shared their thoughts and perspectives about it. And we also got to watch Kathleen Duggan's TED Talks. Now, I know that everybody liked Vershawn Young's video, but seeing Kathleen Duggan's, I think, got the class excited because you guys are a little bit closer to her age and could kind of relate to some of her experiences. So she talked a little bit about being a high school student who went to a school with predominantly white students after being at a school where she was used to using different languages, dressing in different ways, and just presenting herself in a different way until she kind of made a change and a shift. So that was something you could talk about. And then lastly, the video that kind of made you all think a little bit more about community and some of the words. Like, I'm from Danbury, Connecticut, so we might call ourselves Hatters, and everybody else is like, Hatters? What's Hat City? And we know in that town that Hatters is our name of our mascot for our school, right? In Hat City, we're Mad Hatters because they used to produce hats there. So that's local, and that's something that's relevant to us. It doesn't mean it's not relevant to everybody else, but it's relevant to us because we know what it means. It would take some explanation to you all for you to know what it means, or some research. So, considering all these things, right, nothing's right or nothing's wrong about any of the languages that we speak, but as I said, Anzaldúa's list is on the board here, and she shares some of the languages that she speaks. I want you all to share the languages that you speak with each other based on the list that you created after reading this piece. Now, in that piece, I'll run you through a short quote from Anzaldúa, who says, "And because we are a complex, heterogeneous people, we speak many languages. Some of the languages we speak are." And that was what you were kind of given to go off to go ahead and share your list about the languages you speak. So now this in-class activity, right, you're going to write for about 5 minutes in a language that's not standard English, one of your others that you've put down on this list. And then after you've picked, you've had your partner and you two have worked together, you're going to swap, and you're going to take and edit their work and put it into standard English. Once again, I want to put emphasis on the fact that it's not because the language that was written in was wrong, but it's to switch this into a uniform, universal language that you could all understand. Because say if somebody writes in Spanish or they write in another language and you don't understand that, you're going to have to ask them, right, to talk you through some of that, to give you kind of a breakdown of what it is that they're saying and translate. This is going to be your translation of making your work more universally recognized by people who are in this setting where standard English is used. So go ahead and get started on your writing. Think about Anzaldúa's work. Think about some of the points that Young made and some other stuff. I'm excited to see your list, and I'm excited to share mine. And all right, let's get going. All right, so I know everybody's enjoyed doing this work a lot, and we've all had a good time kind of talking about our different languages and different discourses and standard English and focusing some on academic discourses too. And you got to do some writing in class, right? Some revising too. We're going to continue to write on some of these topics and concepts throughout the rest of the week and wrap up this focus on language just for now, but we'll get back to it at some point in the semester. But for Thursday, right? Next Thursday, you're going to do some focusing in on words and things that you use in your community that might only be familiar to you and your community, like the example that I gave you earlier of hatters in my community. And I'm going to ask you, can you think of any examples like the ones in the Appalachian video that would be words and phrases used once again in your community that you might not be able to use outside of your community without explaining them to people? So share them and why, along with what your experience has been like not using those words in academic setting, along with a reflection on how you learned to kind of make that shift to use languages and words that were more recognizable. And when did all that happen? And share about, how it made you feel and everything. So, okay, that's Thursdays. Next Thursday's assignment, be prepared for it, and also your other reading for the class.